Hi there, smart drivers. Talking to you tonight about road signs. Reading road signs and gleaning the information from road signs will make you a safer, smarter driver and significantly reduce your chances of being involved in a crash. Talking about road signs, talking about classification of road signs, regulatory signs, school signs, cautionary signs, lane usage signs, all the different kinds of signs. And if you can break them down into the categories, that is going to make it easier for you when you're driving, and it's going to be easier to be able to glean the information from the traffic sign at a glance. Yes, there we go. All right, for those of you new to Smart Drive Test, my name is Rick August. I was a truck driver in the 1990s, hauling freight between Ontario, Canada, and the United States. I became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997. I earned my doctorate in legal history from the University of Melbourne in Australia. For those of you may or may not know, legal history is the study of policing, courts, and prisons. My expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic. While I was going to university, I drove buses for Greyhound, one of the regional bus lines there, so I have experience teaching new drivers, passenger vehicles, buses, more than 25 passengers, less than 25 passengers, coaches, transit buses, school buses. Have experience with all of that. And I have experience with tractor trailers, just about any kind of trailer that you could put on the back of a semi-truck. Plus, I've driven straight trucks as well and whatnot. So lots of experience in doing what teaching drivers to drive safer and smarter. And if you want to know more about me, Corey's already put up the autobiography there. You can have a look at that for sure. Smart videos up last week. Why you might consider getting a dash cam, why you might consider not getting a dash cam, because as my friend Big Mac Sam said, it's not only watching other people. The dash cam is also watching what you are doing, and if police subpoena that or get a looking for a word, they have to get a subpoena. It's not a subpoena. They have to legally secure the video footage from your dash cam, and if they get that dash cam footage, they could potentially find you at fault. So know that it is not always going to be protecting you and finding you innocent for things that you may or may not do with the dash cam. And Corey's put up that video. Thank you for that. As well, avoiding distracted driving. This is last week's yes, get a warrant to search or to seize the SD card from your dash cam and use that footage. All right, avoid distracted driving. This is the live stream from last week, and it is up with markers. We've edited some of it, so have a look at that as well to get tips and ideas about how to avoid distracted driving. Now, I do not believe that you can drive 100% of your attention on the task of driving, but there are places along the roadway where your attention can wane, where it's better to be tuning the radio at that juncture as opposed to when you're making a left-hand turn or in congested traffic or those types of things. Shapes of signs, as I mentioned in the introduction, shapes of signs, colors, words, or symbols thereon. These are the three ways that traffic signs convey information. Road sign classifications, regulatory signs, regulation. The law is the root word of regulation. School signs, a lot of drivers confuse the school and area sign with speed zone signs. Cautionary signs, not to be confused with school signs. School signs are pentagons, so that means they have 5 sides. They look like the kindergarten house that you used to drive. Cautionary signs are the ones here on the right. They're yellow, background, diamond in shape, and have black lettering thereon. Lane usage signs and object marker signs. Object marker signs are, I put them there as a class by themselves, but they actually belong to the cautionary sign classification. And Corey probably put up the video there of finding hazard obstruction signs. Once you notice these and I point them out, you will see them everywhere along the roadway, the hazard obstruction signs. And there's the video on that. Pass left, right, or on one of both sides. Usually if you come up and there is a right turning lane and there's a traffic island at the intersection, you will have the right and left one, the one with the chevron on it. Okay, these are especially important for larger vehicles. My experience of driving tractor trailers into the United States and driving in just about every different city in the U.S., I took note of these when I was trying to get a 53-foot semi-trailer around a corner. So very important if you're pulling a horse trailer, utility trailer, boat trailer, whatever kind of trailer you may have on the back of your vehicle, take note of these hazard obstruction signs. Regulatory signs, as I said, here in the province of British Columbia, as I was corrected by my friend Tim, railway crossing signs are not regulatory signs, but they are everywhere else, okay? Stop signs, speed signs, and brake check signs. Again, brake check signs for larger vehicles, semi-trucks and whatnot, buses and pulling trailers. These are all regulatory signs that you need to pay attention to and obey when you're driving. Cautionary signs, height signs, curve signs, recommended speeds along roadways and whatnot. Some of these are relevant, some not so much. For example, if you're driving down this roadway and you've been down this roadway 100 times and you know it curves to the left, yes, curves to the left, and 45 miles an hour is the recommended speed limit, but you know you can go around that curve safely at 50 miles an hour and not lose control of your vehicle, then you're going to be just fine. Now, of course, 45 miles an hour is recommended for ideal conditions. If conditions deteriorate because of rain, fog, sleet, snow, whatever other conditions you might encounter, then yes, indeed, slow down to that recommended speed limit or less. 11 feet 8 inches for those driving larger commercial vehicles or pulling trailers or renting a U-Haul. The maximum height of your vehicle is 13 feet 6 inches, okay? And if you are driving a vehicle that is 13 feet 6 inches and the height of the obstruction is 11 feet 8 inches, no, the math does not work out. You cannot drive your 13-foot 6-inch vehicle under this obstruction unless you want a convertible. So know that, okay? Know that the maximum height of a U-Haul trailer or U-Haul vehicle is going to be 13 feet 6 inches. For those of us in Canada, it's 4.15 meters is the maximum height of a vehicle that you can operate in Canada legally. Larger vehicles, destination signs. How far is it to the next city? How far is it to Kelowna from Vernon, where I live? Okay, overhead lane usage signs. Again, these are important for when you're pulling trailers. If you have 2 left turning lanes, you want to be in the outside turning lane to be able to get around and compensate for the off-tracking. Off-tracking is defined as the shorter path that the rear wheels take as opposed to the front wheels. So if you're going around a corner, say for example with this truck and trailer here, this dually and the 5th wheel horse trailer here, the trailer, if you don't compensate for that off-tracking, is going to go and drift into the inside lane. So you have to stay to the top side of the curve every time. Okay, I do recommend staying with the flow of traffic once you get your traffic license, your license, because it makes you more predictable. Now, of course, this has to be within some sort of reason or whatever you are comfortable with when you're driving. If it's 5 kilometers an hour over the posted speed limit or 5 miles an hour over the posted speed limit, then yeah, keep up with the traffic flow. However, if traffic flow is 15, 20, 25 miles an hour more than the posted speed limit, then no, I wouldn't recommend that you keep up with traffic flow. All right, it has to be part of reasonable amount over the posted speed limit. Of course, as the driving instructor, I can't say ever for you to do that, but after getting your driver's license, for your best defensive posturing, it makes you more predictable when you're driving. Lane usage signs, they're usually posted above the lane. They have a white background. They're usually square or rectangular in shape. And again, these become important in the spring for those of us who have winter and plowing and maintenance crews and those types of things. Larger vehicles, and for road tests in larger vehicles, you're going to need to know which lane to be in. Unfortunately, these are not utilized by a lot of drivers when they're driving. They simply follow other traffic and aren't as keen as they should be when they're driving. Mile marker signs. If you don't know what mile marker signs are, pay attention to this part of the presentation, because these can help you out to be a much, much safer and a more defensive driver. Mile markers give you a precise location of where you are along the interstate, highway, or freeway. We have them here in British Columbia. They have them on every interstate in the United States. If you're traveling on Interstate 75, for example, through the state of Ohio, they start at mile marker 213 in Toledo, and they end at 0 at the Cincinnati River at the state line between Ohio and Kentucky. That tells you how many times I drove down Interstate 75. These will keep you safe on the freeway, and exit numbers are the same as mile markers, except in New York State. New York State, for whatever reason, likes to be different. Their exit numbers do not match up with the mile markers, but most other places, they do in fact line up with the exit numbers line up with the mile markers. So if you are getting off at exit 256, for example, and you are at exit 250 and you're in the outside hammer lane, the passing lane, and you want to get off at exit 256, you know that you have 6 miles or 6 kilometers if you're in Canada up the road, that you need to start working your way over to that right-hand lane so that you can exit safely, so that you're not exiting at the last minute and obstructing other traffic and causing backups and potentially cutting other people off when you're getting off the highway. So if you can figure out what the exit number is, it's going to make you a lot safer. And I'll tell you some trucking stories about exit numbers and mile marker numbers during the question and answer period. So good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. That's what we're talking about tonight. Elevator Fan is here. A few other people are tuning in. So let us know where you're tuning in from, and let us know what class of license you're going for and how we can help you out with all of that. If you're going for a CDL license, studying for your air brake endorsement, tankers, those types of things, we can help you with all of that as well. And helping veteran drivers, those drivers that already have their license, to become safer, smarter drivers. That is the purpose of traffic signs. Traffic signs convey information in 3 ways: the shape of the sign, the colors of the sign, and the words or symbols thereon. Some of the more popular signs, regulatory signs, the root word of regulatory is regulation, and regulation means the law. In most places, railway crossing signs, for example, are regulatory signs. Here in the province of British Columbia, they're not regulatory signs, which is a little bit strange. And you need to take note of railway crossing signs. These are intersections. You are intersecting with trains, and the reason that trains are so dangerous is because they don't keep schedules for the most part. Passenger trains, yes, they do keep schedules, but freight trains do not. And unfortunately, approximately, I don't know, in the United States, about 500 people a year killed by trains. Here in Canada, it's only about a tenth of that, 50%. Of course, we have 50%, or 10. We here in Canada have 10% of the population of the United States, so that's why. Marion is here. Hello, Marion. It's from a snowy Vancouver. Yes, it is cold. We have been above 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and today it went down to 28 degrees Fahrenheit, and it has been really cold. For those of us working in Celsius, it's been 8, 9, 10 degrees during the day, and then today it went down to -9, -8 degrees, and it felt like somebody turned winter back on, which was unfair. So yes, I know exactly what Marion is saying. Yes, traffic signs, regulatory signs, caution signs, cautionary signs are usually diamond in shape, yellow background with black writing, black symbols thereon. Cautionary signs, some will save your life, others not so much. They're just there. Okay, the most prominent sign on our roadways is hazard obstruction signs, which is a fancy way of saying fixed objects, those things with which you could crash. And it becomes even more important to recognize hazard obstruction signs when you're driving a larger vehicle, pulling a trailer. And the hazard obstruction signs, they have the hash marks on them. You either pass left or pass right, or there's an arrow on it, and you can pass either left or right. And the piece about the hazard obstruction signs is that, think of a kettle of water being poured on the hash marks. The side the water pours off is the side that you pass the sign on. All right. Height overhead clearances. This is for larger vehicles. Again, I said 4.15 meters, 13 feet 6 inches. All right. And again, New York State likes to be different, and they measured from the center of the hub. And unfortunately, that issue of driving in the state of New York still persists, that they measure obstructions 12 feet 6 inches, and you can go under it. But if you're not sure, if you're driving a U-Haul, or you have a larger vehicle, or you're moving towards driving a CDL vehicle and you're not sure, make sure that you stop and get out and look before you proceed underneath that overhead obstruction, because there are lots and lots and lots of videos on YouTube now of low bridges and overpasses where drivers just careen under there and peel the top of the vehicle off on that obstruction. Excellent. Marion, and you watch how people will try and sneak inside the space you need to turn. Yes, they will. Marion, you mean you just can't go across all lanes and you can go off the highway? Yes, we've seen those videos on YouTube where people do that. I like to call it the swastika lane change, where they just like, and they come off the highway, which is not safe at all. And I'll tell you a story about that. I was teaching one truck driver, and we went up to Kamloops, and there's mile markers on the Trans-Canada Highway, as you may or may not know. And we were getting off and coming back through the back way to Kelowna, and we're going up the hill, and of course we get in behind a loaded set of Super Bs, which is a semi-truck with 2 trailers on it loaded with timber. And these trucks weigh out at 140,000 pounds, 63,500 kilograms. They're incredibly heavy trucks pulling the hill. Of course, he's slowed down. He's doing like 60 kilometers an hour, which is 40 miles an hour up the hill. And so the driver says to me in the training truck, he says, "Oh, can I pass him? Do I have time?" And I said, "Well, you're at mile 270. I said, "You were getting off at 275. I said, "How much distance do you have between where we are now and where the exit is?" He's like, well, he didn't know, right? It's not arrogance. It's just ignorance. It's just that people don't know the mile markers. So I said to him, I said, "You're at 270. You're getting off at 275. I said, "You got 5 kilometers before your exit." I said, "Do you have enough time to pass the truck and then get back over to get off the highway?" He says, "Oh yeah, sure. I got lots of room." So yeah. And so this is how knowing the mile markers and knowing your exit number is going to make you a safer, smarter driver when you're out on the roadways, on the highways, the interstates, and the state roads in the US, because these all have mile markers on them. And the other piece, years ago in the 1990s, of course, this is before GPS, and I'm in the state of Florida. I believe I was on Interstate 95. Interstate 95 runs down the east coast of Florida, and Interstate 75 runs down the inside, the west coast along the Gulf in Florida. And of course, you gotta call up, get directions from where you're going. And so I called where I was supposed to be going, and they said, "Oh, you just come down here. You'll come into the town." What, I can't remember what the name of the town was, but they're like, "You come into the town and then you'll get off at Smythe exit." Okay. So I went down, I got off at the Smythe exit and ended up in a swamp. And I'm like, there's nobody here. And of course, this is also before the time of cell phones. Yeah, and I know that's really hard to believe because cell phones now are so prolific. But in the 1990s, we did not have cell phones. So then, I got to get the truck turned around, back out on the interstate. I got to get off the interstate somewhere where there's a truck stop or someplace else. I got to find a payphone. And I'm driving a 75-foot vehicle trying to figure out where that is. So then I get back on the phone again. They're like, "Oh, it's the Smythe exit, Smythe exit." Okay. And I'm like, I just got off at the Smythe exit. And I said, "It's a swamp." I said, "It is not a delivery area where, where I'm supposed to be coming to." So then I finally, got back on the interstate. I'm driving south. Finally, I find the other Smythe exit that I was supposed to get off. Now, had the directions, had I gotten the exit number, it would have been a lot easier because I always worked to try and get the exit number to where the places I was going. Of course, we don't have that issue now that we have GPS on our phones and it just says exit now, exit now, exit now, right? We talked about that last week. So it's a lot easier if you know the exit numbers and you're paying attention to the mile markers and keeping track of them while you're driving on the highway. So that's one of the reasons why it's important to know mile markers as you're driving along highways. And yes, Marion, Stryker and Izzy Bear are fighting in the other room. Of course, that's what they're doing during the live stream. But my kids are still here, so they went and took care of that. Soys, did you know you wanted to be a driver instructor when you were younger? Soys, no, I did not know that I wanted to be a driving instructor when I was younger. And it sort of all kind of happened. I became a driving instructor to try and get off the highway, to stop being a long haul truck driver because I was just gone all the time. I was never at home. I would leave Sunday afternoon, and I would work all week. Sometimes I was home midweek for a few hours, maybe overnight, and then I was gone back out, and I was usually home Friday night, Saturday morning. So I was home for half a day, and then I was gone again on Sunday. And it just is a really hard life. You know, you make lots of money. I mean, I made lots of money when I was driving in the 1990s. I was making $1,500, $2,000 a week in the 1990s, which is pretty crazy money. But I had no life. They own you, right? And it was the same thing. I went back in 2015 to drive for 2 weeks, and the industry had not changed. The industry was the same. It was still hurry up and wait. And to just put a punctuation mark on that when I was back in 2015, they sent me to Prince George with a load, had 6 drops on the trailer. I'm driving to Prince George, and I'm looking at the paperwork, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think all of this goes to Costco, because I had a bill of lading for Costco. So I stop on the right side of the road, I call dispatch, and not only were they rude, as most of the time, unfortunately, dispatch always was. It was kind of like them being annoyed every time you called them. And I'm like, does this whole load go to Costco? And they're like, no, it's not, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay. I said, so how do I know where they go? And they said, oh, see the paperwork? See the little numbers on the top of the thing? Well, that's that one, and that's that one, and these 3 go there. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that would have been nice. You had better explanation of this. And I said, it's really good that I called you to clarify this, because I was going to drop this whole thing at Costco. And it turned out that most of the load went to another trucking company that specialized in delivering to these little areas in the middle of nowhere. And then I had 3 other drops. And then the last piece, there was 1 piece on the truck that went to Costco. It was a pallet jack. So that was the first piece. So then I get to Prince George, and it was on a Wednesday. I came back on Thursday. I'm coming back on Thursday, and I'm looking to go home. I want to go home, right? I'm getting done. And so then they're like, oh, okay. So they got me another load coming out of Prince George. I'm coming back from Prince George, and this is Thursday, and they're like, no, we don't have anything for you in Vancouver. We don't have anything. I'm like, okay, I'm coming. I'll be there first thing in the morning. So then I get to Vancouver, and they set me in the yard because I slept overnight, and I waited, and I didn't come in until 10 o'clock in the morning. And just to put the punctuation mark on the fact that I did not want to be a long haul truck driver anymore, I waited all day in the yard. All day. 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And of course, it's not much fun because you're in an industrial area. There isn't any place really to go. You're in the truck. Then, finally at 6 o'clock, they got me a load. They said to me, you're going to Calgary. And I was just like, what? They're like, yeah, you're taking this load to Calgary, and then you're going to pick up an empty trailer and you're going to bring it back to Kamloops. And I was just like, that was the way that the trucking industry just happened all the time. And I got in that truck and I drove to Revelstoke. I slept. I drove to Calgary. I picked up the empty trailer and I went back, and it was the last time I think I will ever get in a truck, unless I'm just driving around doing teaching lessons or whatnot, because I was just like, yep, this is the trucking industry. This is what it is. It's hurry up and wait, and they own you. They own you. Yeah. Kane, me and is trying to become a truck driver, and I said, no, bueno. She has an 11-year-old son. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, if you can get a job regional, you're not going to make as much money, for sure. Okay, driving a dump truck, getting in a union shop, working for Coca-Cola or something like that. Yeah, that's going to be fine. But running long haul is really tough. Really tough. And I can remember the first week I went back driving truck. I was gone for a week, did 2 runs to Edmonton and back to Vancouver. And I came back home and I sat in that bathtub and I was just vibrating from the truck. I was like, I don't remember this part. Yeah, it's a hard life. And yeah, I mean, now we have cell phones, we have social media, those types of things, but it hasn't changed. The industry has not changed, which is interesting. And there's a lot of old truck drivers who will say the deregulation of the industry was its undoing, because you used to have a special license. It was regulated by the government and whatnot. It's not regulated anymore. It's kind of a free-for-all. You know, whatever trucking company, they can put it together. They can all go out and start hauling freight and those types of things. The profit margins are really, really slim. So they're not, you know, so it's still dog eat dog, and there's no cooperation in the trucking industry. I don't know how they're going to fix that. Kane, she wants to work regionally. I think it's a bad idea. I don't know. It depends on what kind of work you get. I mean, you can get that kind of work, but, you know, I did do some local and some regional work. I tried that for a while, and there was one company that I went to work for, and got the truck trailer. It was the oldest truck I think I had ever been in. It didn't even have an air ride suspension in it. It had springs. And I took the tractor out to pick the trailer up, and I drove over a set of railway tracks, and the back end was so rigid that when I went over the tracks, the truck lifted up, the back end of the truck. And I went out, picked the trailer up. I drove another 3 miles to where I was supposed to unload. I spent 4 hours unloading the trailer, and then I drove to another liquor shop because it was a load of booze. And I spent another 3 hours unloading the rest of the load. And then I went back to the headquarters, dropped the trailer off, whatever. And they said to me, oh, you know, we got some more work for you. And I said, no, you don't. No, you don't. I said, you don't need a truck driver. I said, you need a lumper. With lumper, they're the guys that unload the trailers. So I just said, no, that's what you need. So, and you know, you were making so much less money as a local driver. Now, I was working for a personnel agency, so I'll just put that caveat in. It wasn't that I was working for the company. I was working for a personnel agency. That's probably why I wasn't being paid as much. And you know, I was just like, in the 1990s, it was like, why would I make $125 a day when I can go and run the road and I can make $350 a day? So that was the other piece of it all. Evan, what is the purpose of a construction sign that tells you to watch for ice? By the way, cruise control is for advanced drivers and not new drivers. No, that's not really true in terms of cruise control. If you're out on the highway, especially if you have adaptive cruise control and lane assist, I would encourage new drivers to know how to use it and have some mentorship in that. If you just figuring it out on your own, that may be a bit challenging for sure. Okay, so roundabouts. When you're coming up to a roundabout, they're a little bit challenging when you first start using roundabouts, because you got to be prepared to stop and go kind of at the same time. You have to give way to traffic that is in the roundabout. Now, depending where you are in the world, if you're driving on the right side of the road, traffic moves counterclockwise. If you're driving on the left side of the road, traffic moves clockwise in the roundabout. Okay, know that. Give way to traffic in the intersection. Give way to any pedestrians at the intersection. When you're approaching the roundabout, rather, signal as you would at a conventional intersection. If you're going left, signal left. If you're going right, signal right. If you're going straight through, don't signal. All right. If you can, when you're in the intersection, signal your intention to leave the intersection, whatever exit you're going to be using to exit the intersection. Okay. So is elevator. I have seen drivers hang out in the left lane when there are numerous drivers waiting to pass, which can cause road rage. Yes, indeed, elevator fan. Left lane squatters, and it's just part and parcel of social driving. It is not something that we are going to change. For whatever reason, it's not part of our culture in North America that people think that they can drive in that left lane. And I dated this woman years ago. Years ago, and it was only a few dates, and this was the reason that it ended, is because we were driving on the highway and she was sitting in the left-hand lane and somebody passed her on the inside, and they're like pointing. You could see them in the back window pointing, right? And she's like, to me, she's like, I can drive in the left lane if I want to. And of course, I'm trying not to say anything, because as a driving instructor, the only time that I ever comment on people's driving is when I'm being paid. If I am a passenger in somebody's vehicle, I say nothing about their driving, even if they prod me to say something. Okay, and as a driving instructor, all the driving instructors out there know that. Okay, I know you're all keen when you first get your driving instructor's license and those types of things, and you think that you're going to fix everybody's problem on the roadway. First lesson of being a driving instructor, don't say anything, nothing about other people's driving when you're not being paid. Only comment on other people's driving when you're being paid. Marion, can you please explain how to work out the time it takes to get to the next town if the sign says 68 kilometers and you are on the highway? All right, Marion, excellent question. So, you are doing 100 kilometers an hour and it's 68 kilometers. So it's approximately 70 kilometers. So it's 0.7 of an hour. 7 times 6 is 42. No, that's not right. 7 times 60, 70. Oh, I am messing this up. Yes, 40 minutes. Should take you 40 minutes to get there. 70 is 40 miles. It's easier in miles for whatever reason, but you're doing 100 kilometers an hour on average speed, okay? You're doing 100 kilometers per hour. How did I get to 40? I know it's 40 for whatever reason. Why do I know it's 40? 70. 0.7 of an hour. Yeah, okay. 7 times 6 is 42. Did that make sense or did I completely confuse you? Okay. This is why I'm an arts major, okay? Arts major. Okay, I have a degree in history, not math, but I know it's 40 minutes. If you got 68 kilometers to go and you're doing 100 kilometers an hour, it's easier in miles per hour, right? Because you're doing 60 miles an hour, you're doing 1 mile per minute. So it's just easier in miles per hour to figure that out. So if it's 32 miles, you know that it's going to take you 32 minutes to drive 32 miles in the States if you're averaging 60 miles an hour. Now here in Canada, exactly what I said. Okay, you're doing 100 kilometers an hour and it's 70 kilometers. Okay, so it's 0.7 times 60, which is 42 minutes. Okay, does that clear now? It's whatever the percentage is. So it's 30 kilometers, for example, right? It's 30%. So whatever 30% of 60 is, which is 18 minutes, right? So does that make sense? I think I explained that well now. Because it's 100 kilometers an hour, it's a percentage, whatever the mileage is. So if it's 42, it's 42%, right? So 42 times 60, 25 minutes. There you go. That's how you figure that out. Does that make sense or are you completely confused? Pearson, what is a slow-moving vehicle sign primarily used on? Pearson, slow-moving signs, excellent question, are primarily used on farm machinery. They can be used on industrial equipment as well. You will find them as well for municipal equipment. So city workers, they have those little lawn tractors. They will have a slow-moving vehicle sign on the back of those. If they have a backhoe, they will have a slow-moving sign on the back of those. All of those will have slow-moving signs on them. So it's anything that's doing less than 40 miles an hour, 60 kilometers an hour on roadways. Zerbo, you learn how to drive by getting into the road by yourself. Okay, not sure what that means. Marion, I don't know miles, I only know kilometers. Okay, so if you want to absolutely rough it out, Marion, 100 kilometers an hour is 60 miles an hour. So that's the way that you figure that out. You know, just some of the trivial information that I have in my head. 1 mile is 1.62137 miles, or kilometers. 1.62137, yeah. You know, I don't know why I know that. I just do. It's weird. Evan, national speed limit signs are for any kind of road. Are they only in the UK? They are blue signs, tell you to do something, whereas red tells you not to do something. Not as a rule. Generally, well, maybe in the UK. I don't think it is, though. Where's my friend? I'm missing my friend here. Different types of signs. So there's different signs classifications. There's a different sign classification in Europe as there is in North America. And depending on which classifications of signs they are using, they're both fairly straightforward. They're both fairly straightforward and interpretive. You can determine what the signs are from the letters and symbols that are on them. All right. Pearson, what would you say is the range going above, below the speed limit sign? I would say that in the United States, it's about 5 miles an hour. And I would say here in Canada, it's about 10 kilometers an hour. Now, depends on the flow of traffic. All right. The Highway 97 here that runs through the Okanagan Valley, the speed limit is 90 kilometers an hour between Vernon and Kelowna. And 90 kilometers an hour, which is 55 miles an hour. And the the traffic flow on that roadway is often 110 kilometers an hour, which is 65 miles an hour. So it's considerably higher than what it would be on most other roadways for whatever reason. Eleanor, do you have any tips for getting what side of the road you should be on clearer? I know with one-ways you need to be on one-ways. Okay, not sure what you're asking me, Eleanor. Are you asking me the difference of the roadway between two directional traffic and one directional traffic? Because in North America, on opposing lanes of traffic going this way, the lane markings are yellow. If it's one way, the lane markings dividing demarcation is going to be white as opposed to yellow. Okay, so if you're on a roadway and it has yellow markings, it's got two directional traffic. If you're on a roadway and it is white markings, it's one way. And also the signs as well will tell you the direction. Okay, and one-way signs will have a white arrow on a black background. That's a rectangular sign, in addition to do not enter signs. All right, so that's what you're looking for when you're driving on the roadway. Excuse me. Elevator fan, action contrary to a regular sign is an automatic fail on a driver's test, and you are absolutely right, elevator fan. So if you are speeding consistently for a period of time, you will not be successful on your driver's test. If you turn contrary to a right turn prohibited sign, that is an automatic failure on a driver's test. So know that. Crossing railway crossing signs with gates lowered, lights flashing, bells going, those types of things, do not do that on a driver's test. You will not pass your driver's test. All right. Corey, to solve for time, divide the distance traveled by the rate that you were traveling. Yes, that's an easier way of saying because, speed is time divided by distance, right? Skinner, hey, heavy foot. Yes, excellent. Eleanor, thank you for that's helpful, as I think I am struggling with it. Parking used to be my biggest struggle, but I'm getting the hang of that, and that is awesome. And know, Eleanor, that being able to do slow speed maneuvers, parallel parking, backing into a parking space, curb parking, all those things, those slow speed maneuvers are going to make your overall driving better. Okay, you will become a better driver faster by focusing on those slow speed maneuvers. That's really going to help you out. Pearson, what are some of the biggest things to remember for the driver's test? Okay, Pearson, biggest things for the driver's test to remember. Corey will put up the two videos for you on common mistakes and automatic fails on a driver's test. Shoulder check. Shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check every time you change directions of the vehicle, okay? So approximately half a block before the turn, if you're going to turn right, you're going to shoulder check half a block before the turn, then just before you turn, you're going to shoulder check again. So shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check. This is probably the number one mistake that drivers are not successful on their road test. Driver's test, signal, mirror signal, shoulder check every time you change directions of the vehicle. Keep your speed limit. Space management, 3 to 4 second following distance, stopping in traffic so that you can see the tires of the vehicle in front making clear contact with the pavement. That's approximately 1 vehicle length. Know the difference between 2-way stop signs and 4-way stop sign intersections. Stopping at controlled intersections at the stop line, crosswalk line. If those two conditions don't exist, then at the edge of the intersection just before entering it. All right. Left-hand turns, do not drive into the intersection. Wait at the edge of the intersection. When you have your gap, then you proceed through the intersection. Okay. Forward scanning pattern. Far down the road, in, check your center mirror. Far down the road, instrument panel far down the road, and then check either of your side mirrors, okay? That's your forward scanning pattern, lane changes, reversing, okay, scanning, okay. 2 hands on the steering wheel for the duration of the test. The only time that you can use 1 hand to manipulate the steering wheel is when you're backing up. When you're backing up, look out through the back window. You can use a backup camera, you can use your mirrors, but you need to be looking out through the back window for the most of your backing up. All right. What's the last thing? Communication, the way that we communicate intent to other road users, position of our vehicle on the roadway, lights and signals, hand gestures, eye contact, and then the last one is the horn. Use your horn sparingly as it's seen as a sign of aggression. All right, so those are some tips of things to look to do and put in place for the purposes of your driver's test. Eleanor, yeah, I've been focused on the slow speed maneuvers, and that is really good, Eleanor, because like I said, that's really going to make you a better driver overall. Looking forward to getting my license soon. Awesome, and anything we can do to help Pearson, drop us a note, leave a comment down in the comment section. They're more than happy to help you out with that. And Corey's put up the videos on top 10 reasons for automatic fails on a driver's test and unexpected events that could come up, dealing with yellow lights, turning right on a red light, those types of things are sometimes catch students off, catch students out when they're driving. So look for all of that. Corey's put up, Cole drives his car 45 kilometers per hour and travels a total of 225 kilometers. Then he traveled for 5 hours. Excellent. So there we go. So Corey's put up an example of how to figure out distance and those types of things. But the thing is, when you're driving along the highway, you've got some time for your mental energy and those types of things, and you can kind of figure this stuff out. I've actually taught my kids how to figure this out when we're driving along the highway, how to get to where we're going and finding out destination signs and how long it's going to take you to get there and those types of things. Now, of course, we live in the world of GPS and whatnot, and you can just look at your GPS for how much time is remaining for you to get to where you need to go and whatnot. So excellent. Skinner's still struggling with my spacing, but you are working on it, which is awesome to hear, my friend. That's awesome. Yeah, it's a really tough skill to work on that spacing in front of your vehicle, to have that 3 to 4 second following distance and stopping back 1 vehicle length from the car in front of you when you're stopped in traffic, because everybody else in the driving environment is telling you something different. So know that. Okay. Marion, I'm using my side mirrors more while reversing, and I am more comfortable with it. I think driving is very cool. Driving, Marion, is very cool. I've spent my whole life doing it, teaching other people how to do it, talking about it, making videos about it, writing books and papers about it. So yeah, it is very cool for sure. Humans in motion in cars. Very cool. They want us to go 35. Still feel like I'm too close. Okay, I can't see the rest of that comment because unfortunately there's a heart down in the bottom corner there, and it's underneath that, Skinner. But yeah, okay, awesome. So space management, speed management, observation, communication, and of course reading the traffic signs, right? And you want to know where these are on your driver's test. The other piece about passing your driver's test and being successful first time: practice in and around the test center where you're going to be taking the test at the time that you're going to be taking your test. For example, if your test is on a Friday at 10 a.m. in the morning, you want to be practicing through the week in and around the test center at 10 o'clock in the morning, at least once or twice, so you know what the traffic conditions are going to be and what to expect on the day of your test. The other piece about this, and you can do this on Google, you don't need to be going out and driving around the test center. You could just pull up where the test center is on Google and go out like 10 minutes from the test center, figure out where the schools and churches are, where the shopping centers are, multi-lane roadways and whatnot. All of this is really going to help you out and prepare for your driver's test. You want to know the difference between a school speed zone sign, because if you speed in a school speed zone when schools are in session, that is an automatic fail on your driver's test, okay? Know the difference between school speed zones and school in area, okay? School in area is just the Pentagon with 2 people on it with their school books, okay? And that just tells you that there is a school somewhere nearby within a few blocks, all right? Unfortunately, some years ago, I had one of my students, it was a rushed training session. He didn't get enough training and went down this one place where there was a school zone, a speed school zone. You couldn't see the school. It was just along this roadway, and the school was back over behind the tree somewhere. And unfortunately, he sped in the school zone. It was an automatic fail in his driver's test, and it was his class 1, his tractor trailer license. And that's really tough because you got to go and take the test again in a tractor trailer. It's not just a $50 fee to take your test again. You got to rent the truck. You got to go out and do some practice. It's like almost $1,000 now in this day and age with a big truck to go and retake your test. So you really, really want to be successful the first time when you take your tractor trailer license. Okay, hello, my friend. Any tips for experienced drivers who have to pass a driving test? Older drivers. Oh, like how old, my friend? Yes. Space management, as I was saying, you need to have that 3 to 4 second following distance in front of your vehicle. Stop back 1 vehicle length from the vehicle in front of you when you're stopped in traffic. Shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check, shoulder check every time you change directions of the vehicle. So in the direction that you're turning, okay? You want 2 shoulder checks every time you change direction of the vehicle. So, okay, are you taking a driver's test again, or as an older driver, is this your first driving test? Like, have you ever taken a test before? You lost your license and then you're going back again. So you have some habits and things that you do in place that need to be retrained, because that's harder than just going for your first license. Elevator fan, if you speed in a construction zone, that is an automatic fail on a driver's test. Yes, it is. And know that in most U.S. states, not all U.S. states, and definitely not here in Canada, that when workers are present in the construction zone, and if you speed, fines are doubled in the construction zone. I got a speeding ticket some years ago in the state of Kentucky because of that very reason. I was speeding in a construction zone, and it was expensive at the time. Okay, yes, taking it again. Okay, yeah, so shoulder check, check, and you're going to have to practice that, signaling, shoulder checking every time you change directions, both left and right. And the other piece about a driver's test, you have to signal when you're reversing. So signal when you're backing up into a parking space, signal when you're reverse parking into the parking space, those types of things. So that is going to be a tough go when you're not used to doing that. Okay, so tips and techniques and tricks. Corey's put that up for us to have a look at as well for the video on passing your driver's test, and that'll give you some information. Not that old, 35, but I've been driving since I was 16. Okay, so you do have some habits and those types of things in place. The other thing I would recommend, Kay, is perhaps investing in 1 or 2 lessons with a driving instructor, because we as driving instructors, we teach people how to pass a driver's test every day. They can really help you out because they can give you feedback on things that you're doing when you're in the vehicle with them. Or yes, when you're in the vehicle with them, and they can tell you need to shoulder check more, you need to signal more, you need to keep more space, making sure that you're stopping at the correct stopping positions at controlled intersections, before the stop line, before the crosswalk line. If those 2 conditions don't exist, then at the edge of the intersection just before going into the intersection. So lots of things going on there. Epic, my friend, you are my resource for the different classifications of traffic signs. You know this information because I know you've posted it somewhere before. What is the different classification of signs in Europe as opposed to in Canada? I know that you know this information. Another thing to consider about some of the exit signs in North America, instead of the white letters with green, you get the blue background with white letters, like the UK and parts of Europe. So there you go. Yes. Thank you for that. So you've got this. Yes, and Marion can certainly speak to that. She's gotten her license and doing well there. I went to the testing site around there, and there was a lot of one-way, so I'm focusing on looking into the rules of the roads more too. Yes. And the other piece, Eleanor, with one-way streets, if you're coming along a one-way street and the examiner says to you at the next intersection, I want you to turn left, you're going to turn from the left lane on the one-way street. All right, so know that you're going to have to get into the left lane to turn left. We have a one-way street here in town, and the number of vehicles that I see that are turning left and they're in the right-hand lane, because they don't realize that they're on a one-way street and that they should be over on the left side. And when I go down there, I'm always on the left side. So if you're one-way street, whatever way the instructor or the examiner tells you to turn, make sure you're on that side of the roadway on the one-way street. So then again, it's important to know that in fact you are on a one-way street. And as Eleanor just said, she's been down around where the test center is, so she knows that there's a lot of one-way streets. So that's really going to help her out with that kind of information. Danu, hello my friend, how are you? Awesome, thank you for joining us here on the live stream. Elevator fan is not signaling correctly an automatic fail on a driver's test. Elevator fan, no, signaling is not an automatic fail on a driver's test. It is a mistake, and if you continue to do it consistently throughout the driver's test, then yes, you will not be successful. If you do anything consistently, any error consistently throughout for the duration of the driver's test, so for example, you miss 5 signals consistently through a driver's test, you're not going to be successful in your driver's test. The examiner's just going to say, oh, I'm sorry, you're not competent in being able to drive. If you miss 10 shoulder checks on a driver's test, you're not going to be successful. So if you do any mistake consistently throughout the test, you're not going to be successful. You're most welcome, Eleanor. Marion, I am an older driver as well. I just got my license in March of last year after many years of procrastination. Yes, we have lots of procrastination for many of us in our lifetime. So it's not just you, Marion. All right, so you have this. Okay, so traffic signs, keep note of the traffic signs. And as well, when you're practicing in and around the test center where you're going to be taking your test, take note of the traffic signs and the changing conditions. The other sections of roadway that you want to take note of is any place where the road merges, where you have to merge on the roadway. For example, it goes from 2 lanes to 1 lane. You want to take note of that because that will give new drivers grief when they're driving. Because look at the videos with Ariel. Corey will put up the videos for the Ariel. The first couple of times that we went down where we have 2 or 3 places here in town where it goes from 2 lanes to 1 lane and you have to merge into that 1 lane, you have to preempt that. And if you know where that is in and around the test center, it's not going to catch you out and potentially cause you to fail your driver's test because you got on the merge lane and then you stopped because you don't want to stop. Okay, you want to merge smoothly to facilitate the flow of traffic continuing to move along that roadway. Epic, speaking of the no turns on red signs, does it also apply to left on red, either one way to one way or 2-way to 1-way on states and provinces that is allowed this maneuver? New Jersey not allowed, but Pennsylvania it is. Epic, it really depends. Now, this is such a minor thing. Now, maybe other people will tell me differently. Maybe other smart drivers will leave comments down in the comment section saying about turning left from a 1-way to a 1-way where you can do that on a red light. I've never encountered this, okay? In all my driving, I cannot remember this ever being something that I encountered. Now, it does exist because I've seen this question numerous times, people pointing this out. So, the only time that I would think that you can't make a left turn from a 1-way street to a 1-way street on a red light is if signs prohibit that, right? And usually, because it's an unusual occurrence in traffic, it's not something that you encounter on a regular basis like a right turn on a red light, they would have signs up directing you whether you can do this or not. Now, rights on red lights, there's only the 5 boroughs in New York City that you cannot turn right on a red light: Manhattan, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. Those 5 boroughs you can't turn right on a red light. The other place that you can't turn right on a red light is the island of Montreal in the city of Montreal. All right, those are the only places that I know that you cannot turn right on a red light. Now, most of Europe, you can't turn right on a red light. Know that. If you encounter that on your driver's test, make sure that you're looking for signs that don't prohibit turning right on a red light. Know that you have to come to a complete stop at the correct stopping position first before you do that. The stop line before the crosswalk, okay? It's going to be a major intersection anyway, so it's not going to be like there aren't any lines there telling you where you need to stop. And watch out for traffic on the other side of the intersection because they might have an advanced left and you may have to deal with that traffic. Now, after you come to a complete stop at the correct stopping position at the intersection, give way to all of the road users, because oftentimes it's quite a number of pedestrians that you need to deal with as well when you're making your right turn on a red light. All right. Now, for the purposes of a driver's test, if it's busy, lots of traffic, lots of pedestrians, you can wait for the green light, and you're not going to be deducted points for that. Now, if it's not busy and there's very little traffic, no pedestrians, and it's right on a red light, and you sit there and you wait, there's a good chance that you could potentially fail your driver's test for not proceeding. So know that, because I've talked to driving examiners who have commented on this topic, and they say that if it's busy, yeah, you can wait for the green light. But if it's not busy, then you need to proceed to demonstrate that you have a skill level high enough to be proficient in driving. Your job to pass your driver's test is to take away the take away the examiner's right to fail you. The driving examiner's job is to assess your ability to have control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what you need to do. Okay? To pass your test, demonstrate to the examiner that you do care and control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. That's what you need to do. Okay? Okay, excellent. Rawson, how are you, my friend? I still watch your videos. That helps me refresh my memory, even though I never lost memory of my driving skills. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And interesting, I've been hanging out on Reddit here, and I've been answering some questions on Reddit, trying to help people and those types of things, and of course, promote the channel. So if you can promote the channel any way you can, that is really exceptionally helpful for me. And one of the questions today that I saw was, is passing your driver's test an indicator that you were a good driver? And I want to answer this question now in the live stream in the last few minutes that we have here. No, it's not. It really isn't. In any stretch of the imagination, passing a driver's test is not any indicator of what kind of driver you are. Because, you know, as I've said in the past, everything can go swimmingly, you pass your driver's test. You know, good drivers go out there, everything goes wrong, and they fail their driver's test. There's just so many things in the driving environment that can go right, or so many things in the wrong that are in the driving environment that can go wrong. There's no indicator. A driving test is such a minimum standard. All right. I would never say, after all my experience of driving tractor trailers, driving buses in Australia, driving in Europe, I would never say I'm a good driver. I would never say that, because anything can go wrong in the driving environment. There are accidents. Most of the collisions out there are collisions, they're crashes, but they're not accidents. There's not very many true accidents. And some of the statistics that I've been looking at in the United States, they argue that more than 90% of car crashes are a result of driver error. And, you know, some of the crash analysis work that I look at, I think to myself, there, but for the grace of God, go I. So, if you are taking a driver's test, going for a driver's test, and you think that the driver's test is a high watermark and that you're a good driver because you passed the test, nothing could be farther from the truth. Nothing could be farther from the truth. All right. Skinner, how are the people able to drive without being taught how to though? They're learning. Whether they take driving lessons or not, they're learning on YouTube, learning from their parents or those types of things. Or some people just take 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 driving tests until they pass. Okay. Corey, after stopping and yielding to the right of way to pedestrians and other traffic, Manitoba public insurance, yes. I want to be a good driver than a car crash. Yes. And there are things that you can do to significantly reduce your chances of crashes. But the thing about traffic crashes is that we're duped. We're duped, okay? Because we know in a 30, 40, 50-year career of driving that we're only going to crash 3 or 4 times. So we go 15, 17 years without a traffic crash, and the traffic crash not crashing becomes the measure of our success, when it's not really a measure of success at all. You know, it just be other people looking after us and that circumstances are in their favor that we don't get into a crash. So one of the things that I would say about being a smarter driver, being a better driver, is always be learning. Okay, always trying to improve your skills, because there are a lot of things you can do that will significantly reduce your chances of being involved in a crash when you're driving. Okay, Corey's put that information up about turning right on a red light. Elevator, I've encountered clusters and I have been caught in them. What should I do if I get caught in a cluster? Elevator fan, it's going to be inevitable that you're going to be in a cluster. There's just times you're going to be in a cluster, okay? You just got to work to get out of it and then try and drive in the spaces between the clusters. You're not going to be successful in all of these instances, okay? There's times you're going to be near other traffic. So do what you can. Eleanor, I want to be a good driver. Yeah, the statistics you mentioned is really true. Someone almost backed up into us. I learn every time my parents have close calls and notice how they respond. How is your buggy doing? Ross, and the buggy is doing well. It's actually running really well. I think I have all 125 horsepower coming out of it right now. So it's been really great. Just about to clean it up for the spring and those types of things. And I'm actually thinking both my kids are going to Ontario this summer early, and then I'm going to drive out in August. I got to do some work at my mom's place, and I'm thinking that I'm going to drive out this year. So we're going to be driving through Washington State, Montana, Idaho, the Dakotas, Wisconsin, and on the way back, I'm going to come back with my kids, and we'll spend some time coming through the States, go to Chicago. It's not called the Sears Tower anymore, but stop there and go to Mount Rushmore and a couple other places on the way back through. So great trip through the States in the buggy. So yeah, that'll be this summer. So looking forward to that. So we'll leave it there for tonight. Thank you everybody for participating. Thank you for your great questions. Good luck in your driver's test if you have one coming up. And remember to breathe. That will help your body to relax and drop back. Let us know how your driver's tests go. If you passed your driver's test in the last couple of weeks, congratulations. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.